What's up, everyone? It's your favorite marketer and podcast host. My name is Prit. I'm the author of Zero to Four Figures, a marketing strategy consultant, and a digital entrepreneur. A few of the roles that I do take on, I'm a podcaster, YouTuber, Etsy shop owner, and a Skillshare teacher as well. All of the links are in the description box below if you would like to check it out. On this podcast, I shuffle between giving solo podcast episodes and bringing in experts to give you actionable steps on various marketing, business, and mindset strategies to help you grow the business you love. Today, I have one such expert with me, Nate Sheen. Nate, how are we doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Prit. It's great to be on your podcast today.
Oh, I'm actually very, very excited about this because I know that in this podcast episode, we're going to be talking about cybersecurity for business owners. But before we get into all that, Nate, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? How did you get started on your entrepreneurial journey? What is it that you do? What is your domain of expertise?
Well, I guess it depends on how far back you want to go. I think as a child, if you asked my family, they say Nate was gonna start some kind of business. And I tried and failed on a lot of strange things. But technology kind of has tracked with me throughout my whole life, from just really being interested in how it worked. And you get a skill and then all of a sudden people are hiring you to do small projects, and that really became a part of it. And so I went to a trade school just to learn like software and computer hardware, and I didn't really have like a direction in my life, but I really enjoyed it more and got into it. But as I started getting into that world, I just learned so much about its security. And that's really the transition that has happened to the IT world. Is anybody who was doing any type of IT management, computer hardware, selling computers, managing servers. We had to do all those things. And then it was, well, we've got to figure out how to manage the passwords and make sure we don't get hacked. And so that was the track that I started going down and really started learning that world and studying and reading and taking the training. And that was really the track that I took my continuing education on. So I was working for a few different companies, and my brain was always like, I think I could do this better, and going to the owner and saying, I've got this idea, I want to go this direction. And they weren't on the same page with me. So ultimately I decided, well, I'm going to have to probably go out on my own. But I was scared, very scared to do that. So, and we were, I'm in the US. And so we went through the US 2008 financial crisis, and very difficult to get hired, very difficult to try to start a business, even though I did try to start an IT business at that time. It just kind of fell flat, plus a lot of my own fear and insecurity and everything. So I ended up just getting into sales, which is probably the best thing that would ever happen to me. So I found a company that was very focused on growing, and I was not selling technology, but I was selling a subscription-based service, which really helped me understand how technology functions, because everything in technology now is a subscription-based. It's that type of sales, and it taught me a lot about the business world and how that functions, and really met and networked with some really great people during that 4-year period of my life in that sales role. And then I left and I went and worked for a bank, and I learned all of this compliance stuff there working for a bank, and I was developing my business plan. So I finally left the security of the Fortune 500 bank, and I made that jump now 7 years ago. And we have a managed security firm that I own, and then I have a coaching consulting cybersecurity company that we have just recently launched to help companies get ready for compliance, get ready for cybersecurity, and help their teams be able to manage the security for their companies.
Oh, that's amazing. I really think that for every single entrepreneur who I've spoken to, and I've spoken to a lot, like it's in the hundreds over the last 3 years, one thing that's very common with every single one of them is that they knew from a very young age they would become entrepreneurs. I mean, the entrepreneurial spirit or the entrepreneurial mindset was very much in them from a very young age. And entrepreneurship was just a natural progression of who they were as a person. And I can see that with your journey as well. So that's really, really amazing. And, even though you knew that you wanted to get into the entrepreneurial world at some point, I know that you mentioned you were a little bit scared. What were some of the mindset shifts that you needed to make personally to enter the entrepreneurial world? And how did you overcome that limiting belief or that fear initially?
Well, I don't tell the story without saying that I still suffer from that imposter syndrome to this day of, do I really deserve to be here? Am I really the expert? Do I really think that I am who everybody thinks I am? Though those things still run through my mind. It's getting easier to be like, well, I don't care. I've done this long enough. I wouldn't be here if I wasn't doing the right things. I think the big shift was when I was launching my company. My wife was pregnant with our son, and I really wanted to show the next generation that I'm going to live without fear, because that was not something that was in previous generations in my family. So part of my business journey was I wanted to break the chains of fear that had controlled my family for so many generations of, we can't start a business, that's really risky, and you might have a financial loss, and it could be really challenging, and you might have to take on debt, or you might have some failures along the way, and you might trip and do the wrong thing. And I really wanted to show that I know I can do this. This is what I was born to do. I'm not happy with any other idea. And I really wanted to prove to my children as I wanted them to grow up with, yeah, dad's going to struggle. He sees these things, but I really want to show them that you can be anything that you want to be. If you see a need in the world, you can make it better. And so that was really one of the driving moments of, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm really nervous about doing this. And I had a lot of failures and trips along the way, but I really have an opportunity to begin showing them and shaping that story with them in my life.
Wow, that is so inspiring, Nate. Honestly, I'm in awe because a lot of times, when we are talking about toxic masculinity, people are so afraid to even say that they were scared, or there was a bit of fear coming on. And the fact that you are here, you're saying, yes, I was scared. That's a very important component of the actions that I took. But at the same time, I was willing to work through that fear or even work with that fear. And I think in a lot of ways, more ways than one, that is such an inspiration. And I'm so happy that you did it for your kids. This is the reason why I ask this question to every single person out there, because it's just so inspiring to see different aspects of where people come from, how they manage to overcome their set of fears, their set of limiting beliefs. And one of the reasons why I asked this question is because I really want to break that myth that all of us entered this fearless, or we did not have any fear, or there was nothing stopping us. I know that a lot of people look up to entrepreneurs. They say, oh yeah, probably no fear. They were probably, just doing this because they wanted to do, but fear is a very important component of this. And so is imposter syndrome. So is our limiting beliefs. And one of the reasons why I asked this question is so that I break that myth. And to have your story out there, it's really, really inspiring for me. Do you have additional thoughts, Nate?
Well, do you think the lion doesn't have a fear? Do you think the lion fears getting sick or getting injured? And we look at this, we only see the powerful depictions of the lion.
Yeah.
And that's what social media does to us. You look at my social media, I want to have a depiction of the good and the bad, but a lot of times it's very easy for us to only put out the good stuff. Here's my fun vacation. Here's the victory I had. I celebrated this. I celebrated that. I'm afraid that my reputation is going to be hurt if I put something out there that is not a victory. Yeah. And we need to, it has made us such an unreal culture with
Yes.
social media because it's not really there. And so that's where I really want to be real with my team that works for me, real with my family, and real with the audience that follows me and say, here's the real things that are actually happening. And that's what I try to do through some of the content we put out there. Like I just put up like, here's a real problem I'm working on that I can't figure out because I don't know everything. And you know what the cool thing about that is, Prit? I'm getting the answers. They're commenting, they're sending me messages saying, I think you should try this. And it works. And we're making a better community that way by just saying, I don't have all the answers. I need help doing this thing, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. And I think because of how people portray themselves on social media, there is this weird pressure on ourselves as well. Like when something goes wrong, we think that everything should be going right in our business. And I think that really affects the way that we show up in the mental space that we're in the emotional space that we're in. And it's really awesome that you are showing the not so good sides of entrepreneurship as well as the positive sides of entrepreneurship. I think that there should be a healthy balance, a healthy view of it. And that's one thing that I personally, and I think Nate and I resonate on this so much, is that I also personally try to share as much as I can within my boundaries. What are the struggles that I'm facing, how I overcame that, and all of that. And it's hard because when you're putting that content out there, you're scared. Okay, what are people going to say? This is different, right? This is not the pretty version that everyone's putting out. What are people going to say? How is it going to be reciprocated? But as Nate says, I think there is a lot of respect that comes with authenticity and vulnerability as well. In this day and age, I think people are looking for that authentic content out there. And I think we as entrepreneurs should be responsible and show both sides of it, not just one side. What are your thoughts on that, Nate?
Absolutely. There's a great example of things not always going perfectly in this video today. Because if you look behind me, if you're watching on video, my sound panels fell down while we were talking. And I'm going to point it out because this is real life. My daughter came in here and pulled those 4 panels off. And I fought with it. I was rushing around because I had work to do. And not everything goes perfectly. And I'm like, it's bothering me that it's falling down because I want to like have the perfect room and sound and everything. But authentically, we're all professionals and we have family or maybe we have children, and that's so much a part of our lives. And we try to like hide that, like I don't have that, or somebody's gonna think differently of me. Like who cares about my sound panels? Like I just mentioned it. And now everybody's going to look at that. It's going to bother me forever because that's there because I think I have to be perfect. And it's the same thing with everything out. Like I just like overthink everything I do. Like, did I send that email correctly? Did I say the right thing in that proposal I sent through? Am I charging too much money? Are they going to like not like me because I'm not charging them, too much? Or, we constantly think that. And I think that people, or myself, and maybe other entrepreneurs struggle with, we think so much more about what other people think about us, and they don't think about us like that.
That's true.
I sit there and think of entrepreneurs and I think, oh, I think they got a nice business there. And I think really good things about them. And they're probably over there beating themselves up about a conversation that we had. And it's just being real with people and really just taking that time to check in and having relationships with them. I've got a list of entrepreneurs that I feel like I've connected and I check in with them, not on their businesses, not because I want to sell them something, because I truly care about them. And because I know that burnout is so big, and I know that the bad thoughts are only a half step away from me, and I know I'm not alone in that. And so I check in on them and say, what's your mental space right now? Or how are you doing? What's really going on with you? And if you need something, reach out to me. And we do that for each other because we have to, because we can't be alone, or something bad's going to happen to us.
Absolutely. And I think this journey, a lot of people seem to overlook that, is it's pretty lonely, especially as digital entrepreneurs like you and me. If there is no in-person contact with us, I mean, I'm pretty sure even with your employees, it's just the bare minimum contact because everything's online now. And for me, especially, I mean, meeting people is like foreign territory for me. So
Yeah.
it's important to check in. I think that's a really nice thing that you do. And I think that's also something that I will consciously do from now on, because it's not something that has occurred to me to do, but I think it's very important for us to consciously make that effort to check in with the people around us and just ask them, where are you at? What's your mental space at? What's going on in your mind? Are you okay? And I think just even asking that question or knowing that someone's out there can really help us feel a lot better about this journey. So thank you for
Oh,
that, Nate.
yeah.
I'm definitely going to take that piece of advice. So now let's kind of go into your area of expertise. First off, let's talk about what exactly is cybersecurity and why is it important for business owners like us?
Yeah, cybersecurity is such a big topic, and we'll definitely only be able to scratch just a very small piece of the surface today. But cybersecurity is everything, from your passwords to how you encrypt stuff. But it's so much more than that because, and I think, if we're speaking specifically to digital entrepreneurs today, you need to think about, maybe you're one or two person teams and you think, nothing's really going to happen to me. I don't have that much going on, or I can manage myself. I don't really need any help in this area. And those, you stand so much to lose. And I say, what is your business worth to you to lose? You may not be the Fortune 500 that gets hacked because you don't have as much money as the Fortune 500, so they're not going to get as much out of you. But by making yourself that low hanging fruit, by not putting some of those procedures and policies in place for yourself and really thinking through the little things. And these are the things that got me really in business because I'm no different than anybody else. I get lax even as a cybersecurity person because they say it's an old adage. My father was a car mechanic, and they always said the car mechanics cars are the least maintenance cars over anybody because they're working on everybody else's. They don't have time for theirs. And I can concur that that was always the last project we worked on were our own cars growing up. And it's the same thing in our own businesses. You focus on marketing. Are you focusing as much as you're focusing on your clients' marketing as you are on your own? Am I focusing as much as my own cybersecurity as my own? And where I had to make a shift in that and say, my security has to be good because if mine's not good, then it's not going to be good for my clients because their security is based upon how good I am at it. And if I get hacked, they have the potential for getting hacked. But the same thing happens to you. If you get hacked as a supply chain, there's potential for the connections that you have to your clients that you can even hurt them down the line. And so that's such a responsibility that we have as business owners as we're servicing other people, whether we have a software as a service platform, or we do marketing, we're connected to their social media, or we deliver stuff, we have their information on hand. We're going to affect our clients in one way or another, and that's our reputation on the line. So we need to, if it's just one person, wow, that's really easy. We're going to write down exactly what you need to do, and then you're going to do it, and you're going to implement it, and you're going to check it, and you're going to check it. So what we offer, I do as a service, is that accountability piece. How is that going? What are the procedures? Do they actually work? And another set of eyes to make sure that you're implementing it yourself. Because I know that I need a second set of eyes. That's why I have a team around me. That's why I have some outside contractors that work with me to check and make sure that I'm actually doing the things correctly.
That's really interesting that you put out there that it is our responsibility as business owners to protect the data of our clients, because as much as I look at banks and the big corporations, I've actually not thought about that for myself. As much as I think about that for other banks and they're big corporations, and I as a consumer am worried about my data, I have actually not considered the fact that I'm a business owner now. My clients have their data with me. There are people who sign up for my email list and all of that. So that's all valuable information that I have, that if I were at a weak point, it's an obligation, it's a responsibility that I have for the people who've trusted me with their information. So that was actually an eye opener for me. And for you, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see your clients making? One, I guess, in my opinion, because I'm right here and I just made that mistake, was not thinking of themselves as responsible for the data of their clients. But what are the other mistakes that you see your clients making?
I think not putting value on security, and looking at it as another tax. Because there's a way that you can do security. It can be very expensive, and it's just like, another expense I have to have. It's very expensive. But really, if we're putting policies and procedures in place, that is going to make you more efficient as a business, and that's going to put things in place. That's one thing that we're diving deeper into, upgrading all of our policies and procedures, because what happens to me, that this is what happened for probably the first 5 years of my business. I was the policy and procedure manual, and what I mean by that is, so and so popped their head in my office, what do we do about this? And I'd make an answer. Or so and so called me on the phone, what do I do about this? And that was like years that I was just coming up with policy, and it would change from time to time. Now I pre-think through the questions, I write it down. Here's how I want you to handle this, and they do it. Now there's going to be questions that come up, and we continue to make that better and make that better. But that will make you more efficient. So writing down these procedures, getting these procedures in place is going to make you safer and more efficient, because you're going to be making better decisions. So you can start with the security piece, which is so important, but flow that into the rest of your company. And you're going to be surprised by how much cybersecurity affects your entire organization now. And really thinking through, how do I do these things and why do I have these things in place, and can really save you a lot of money. Real quick story. To connect it back a little bit to your audience in your world, a social media manager that I know was managing some social media accounts for some local organizations in my town, and they got hacked. The social media manager got hacked, and they lost their Facebook account. Well, they were the only admin on multiple Facebook pages, and they lost all of those pages. They were gone. And so, it's been discussed before. They were like, oh, this person called me and they want to manage our pages and stuff. And I told them, no, because you lost XYZ pages, and because you got hacked, because you didn't have the security in place for that. And I said, having that policy and procedure in place can also be your reputation protection too. And I think, not only that, but maybe some continuity. Maybe you shouldn't be the only admin. Maybe you need to have some other people. Add somebody to your team to think about that. That's something a security consultant can offer, some type of services like that, finding another trusted staff member, or just thinking through how would you do that. Maybe it's different for every organization. But those are the stories that we don't think about. We're just going forward. We're going to do these things, and we don't think this is ever going to happen to me. And it happens all the time.
Oh, that's really, really sad with the social media manager, though. But what a domino effect, right? You target one person and you actually get a whole horde of information. I think that's pretty, I don't know. I have no words for that, but that's really, really sad for the person out there. And I mean, I think that just shows the magnitude of how bad this can go, if overlooked. And so when a business owner like myself, we're looking for cybersecurity experts such as yourself, what are some of the things that we need to keep in mind?
Yeah, I think keeping in mind that when you have an expert come in, they're going to ask you a lot of questions about your business process, because it's connected to everything. And so while we're not a business consultant to a newer business owner, a newer entrepreneur, you're going to be like, this person is asking an awful lot of questions, and why do they need to know all this information? And you need to be prepared to have that conversation, because everything affects it, and the way you do things affects how safe and secure you're going to do. So when you're looking for a consultant, you really need to find somebody that you can actually trust, and you can actually have those deep conversations with. And it's not just one piece of software. I can't sit here and say you need this antivirus, or you need this type of backup, or you need use this software vendor. There is no one thing. It really comes down to each individual doing the steps that are required with those softwares to make things easier, to make it better to manage, to give you another set of eyes. But you really need to be able to have a very real conversation about what's going on and be willing to be vulnerable and say, I don't know. You don't have to be the expert in this, and never feel like you have to be the expert, because you're the expert in your field, and security is the field of the cybersecurity expert.
That makes sense. Yes, because I think oftentimes, I think for me personally, if I have to think about myself, speaking to a cybersecurity expert, I think I might get a little overwhelmed because I personally don't know anything about that subject. And so my question is, when I'm talking to a cybersecurity expert or somebody who claims that he is, how do I know that he is legit? Because I personally don't know anything. So how is it that what are some of the key things that I should look out for to say, okay, this guy knows what he's doing, or he knows exactly how to handle my business?
It's very much reputation based in this world. So this is why I do so much networking and spend so much time on podcasts and really putting myself out there as who I am, because it takes time to build that reputation up. So it's probably I would say, one of the hardest businesses to grow. So if you have somebody in the audience, I want to be a cybersecurity expert like Nate, be prepared for a long road of building your reputation. And that reputation is the number one thing that you have to protect, is really making sure that you're accessible and people can feel comfortable talking with you, and having more conversations in cybersecurity, getting really personal with it so that you can show that you trust. You can dive in their certifications. That's important, but not as important as the trust factor of that person. And are they actually doing the actions that they're recommending for you? How secure are they? How likely are they to go drinking with their buddies and say something they shouldn't? Or insider hacking is a really big deal. And this is an issue that I have to really watch out for, is maybe a vendor, supposedly new vendor, coming into my space and wanting to be a part of the organization, and us use their software and get access to our stuff. We have to be really, really careful, because they're reaching out to consultants and security and IT people and say, hey, we'll give you a 20% commission on this ransomware attack. And they're taking the money. But when it's, $2, $3, $5 million, 20% commission on that by just turning over your password, that's a pretty good score for you. And if you're just money focused, you can see that. So really focusing on people who aren't money focused and really people focused, I think is really the place to start with cybersecurity. That's why I say the majority of my clients take anywhere from 6 to 12 months to really come on with me, because I'm building reputation and building relationship with them. And I need to show up in their life and be a part of their life and really show the value that I can add before we ever start talking about money.
Yeah, that's definitely some solid marketing advice there, not just, in terms of cybersecurity hiring, but even for me personally, it takes on an average 3 to 4 months of speaking to the person on unrelated topics. Mind you, let me tell you that. Let me be very frank with people out there, because everything is online now with me and my business. And, to build that trust factor, it's a very, very important key, because for me, with respect to the other person, they're giving their entire business marketing to me. So there needs to be that layer of trust. So I think that's some solid marketing advice, even regardless of which industry you're in. If you're thinking of hiring someone, understand that it's a long process, understand that it takes time. If you're thinking of even marketing yourself, I think what Nate's advice was that you need to give it that time to build that trust factor. And I think I really liked something Nate said was not related to the topic that you are a part of. So understanding their life, understanding where they come from. And I know, and I've seen this firsthand with Nate. I mean, Nate and I think we've known each other for a couple of months now, and I follow Nate pretty regularly on LinkedIn and his Instagram page as well. And I've seen this firsthand. So I know what he's talking about. I know I can vouch for it as well. So that's some pretty awesome advice there, Nate. And if we have to, wrap up this entire episode, can you share 3 pieces of actionable steps that my audience can take today just to make sure that their cybersecurity is at a point where it's ready for you as a cybersecurity expert to work on?
Well, number one, you need to go turn on multi-factor authentication. You actually need to stop listening right now and go turn on multi-factor authentication on all of your accounts. You shouldn't do anything else today besides turn on multi-factor authentication. And if there isn't multi-factor authentication available on that account, then quit using that software or service. Number 2, there is no right starting point. The starting point is right where you're at. So if you say, I really don't know what to do, that's when we need to have a conversation and talk about that, because the starting point is right where you are. And number 3, just don't lose any more sleep over it. You can have a lot of anxiety when it comes to it. We have a lot of anxiety as business owners. So stop losing sleep over it. It is a scary, scary world. And I just decided that there's a lot of risk that comes with it. I'm not saying be complacent, but I'm saying get in touch with an expert, start putting those things in place. I just told you the number one thing to do is get multi-factor authentication in place and stop having anxiety about it. If you're concerned about something, you want to have a review, you can check out my website, book a session with me, be more than happy to go over that. We have one-off sessions. We can just chat through it, give you some great things. We can go as far as that, and having a monthly retainer if you have that much going on that we need to meet weekly or monthly and chat about those things. So definitely the things that we can help you with. And and an offer to your audience, Prit, we do have a free 30-minute discovery call. You can book it right on the front page of my website. Just let's get to know each other, even if it's just to say, hey, I'd be interested in just knowing what that looks like down the road. Let's have a 30-minute discussion, just get to know each other and get connected on social media and LinkedIn, or have some virtual coffee, or whatever it takes to start building that reputation together.
Amazing. And Nate, if my audience wants to reach out to you, can you just tell me your website? I'm going to, of course, put all the links in the description box below, but Nate, where can they find you on LinkedIn, Instagram, your website?
Yeah, look me up. LinkedIn is just Nate Sheen. My 2 websites, trustastoria.com. That's our managed service provider that's also partnered with cybercoach.live, which is my consulting piece, which is where we typically start with these conversations, especially digital entrepreneurs. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at The Real Nate Sheen. I just talk about cybersecurity issues 5 days a week. I post a video on there, very timely information, just ways to help you. And that could be a great way for you to only get to know me, but also think of ways that you can be safe and secure in your own company. So check me out there, send me a message on LinkedIn or any one of those platforms. Happy to talk with anybody from this. And of course, love chatting with Prit and her podcast and her platform's fantastic.
Thank you, Nate. And for those of you listening out there, I'm going to put all of the links in the description box below, but feel free to reach out to Nate. Tell him one thing that you liked about this podcast episode. He's really, really friendly. I personally follow Nate's content on LinkedIn and Instagram. I find it really, really informative. So definitely do take the time to follow him on those particular platforms as well. Nate, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. You've shared a lot, not just on mindset, but also on cybersecurity for business owners. My eyes have been opened. I'm definitely going to be a lot more, conscious when it comes to cybersecurity for my business as well. So thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me today. It's great. Look forward to chatting with anybody or chatting with you some more.
All righty, guys. Thank you so much for listening all the way up until here. I will catch you in my next episode. Bye-bye.